There's no place like this. It's definitely one of the funnest places to be.
It was a packed house at Arrowhead for the start of the NFL season.
It's kind of sad to see him take it down.
Plus, how a bridge that's coming down this weekend has connected generations.
Really, it's not an easy history to deal with.
And the ceremony confronting Columbia's painful past. This is KOMU8 News after the game.
Coverage you can count on. KOMU8 News starts now.
Well, right now you're taking a live look over Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. It was not the start to the season the Chiefs were hoping for. Detroit upsets Kansas City 21-20. Good evening, everyone. I'm Evie Allen.
And I'm Emily Spain. Thanks so much for joining us. The parking lots of the stadium were full of tailgaters earlier today. Now they're full of fans trying to leave that game. But earlier there were barbecue grills, music speakers, flags, tents, every spot nearly filled.
That's right. KOMU8's Lacey Reeves was actually at Arrowhead and talked to one fan who was fired up for the game.
It's all red and gold here today at Arrowhead Stadium for the Kansas City Chiefs season opener. Fans came from near but also far to tailgate here today. I met one couple from South Dakota who made the trek down.
So we are tailgating for the home opener. We're excited for the Chiefs game. We actually just purchased it on Tuesday, and we own a printing company, so we had it designed and wrapped in one day, literally ready for this. So we just brought our portable grill today, but we're planning on bringing our bigger one next week. And then we have cabinets that are kind of labeled, the TV, coolers, and then we need to get our mini fridge put in there still. So by the next game, we should be fully set up.
Lacey Reeves, KOMU8 News, Kansas City.
The Kansas City Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls in the last 3 years, and the tailgaters are all hoping they can add to that number this season.
Sports Director Ben Arnett will have full highlights from the game later on in the show.
Weather-wise, it really couldn't have been better. Of course, a better outcome is always welcome, but we'll talk about it coming up with my 8-day forecast in just a bit.
All right, thank you, Matt. Well, 134 years ago, a black teenager was lynched at Boone County Courthouse. Today, dozens showed up to honor his legacy.
KOMU8's Hunter Walterman was at the courthouse as a historic new marker was revealed. Hunter.
Yeah, hey, Emily and Evie. Now, this is the moment the marker was revealed. It honors Boone County teenager George Bush. Bush was lynched from the window of the county courthouse in 1889. Even though it happened over 100 years ago, community leaders say its impact is still felt today.
It's wonderful. Dozens of people sitting on the grass, taking in history.
Really, it's not an easy history to deal with.
134 years ago, it was a much different scene.
But this is this nation.
On September 7th, 1889, an angry mob lynched a black teenager here. His name was George Bush.
I'd like to think that, I'm a student of history. And
it may be shocking for some, casting a shadow on what should be a monument to justice. A teenager publicly murdered by a masked mob. His body left dangling from the courthouse overnight. Today, an uncomfortable history thrust into the spotlight.
there's important lessons to be learned there for all of us.
Boone County Presiding Commissioner Kip Kendrick says he's surprised Boone County officials let it happen. And in newspaper reports, an effective piece of work expeditiously and quietly done, said the Columbia, Missouri Herald.
Present the receipts is what I say.
Kesley Spotsville is a founding member of the Community Remembrance Project. She helped push the county to honor Bush, a permanent monument to a night of terror.
This is the pushback that's happening, nationally right now, is to tell these truths, and they have to be told.
The Equal Justice Initiative that runs the Peace and Justice Legacy Museum in Alabama also helped to get the marker built. The group says it will also place a marker honoring Bush at its own museum. In the studio, Hunter Walterman, KOMU8 News.
Okay, thanks, Hunter. Camden County commissioners voted to freeze property taxes for senior citizens. Last session, state lawmakers passed a law leaving it up to county commissioners to decide on property tax freezes. The law will stop property taxes for those 62 and older who are eligible for Social Security or own a home. Some local leaders are happy with this being passed, while other people are calling it unfair.
I personally don't like property taxes at all, because in the end, you really don't own your house, do you? The government can come away if you don't pay those taxes, right? So, but it is what we have in this state. It's what we work with. So I think we've done something great for the seniors of Camden County to be.
Preferential of taxes favoring one group over another, regardless of the basis, is categorically wrong. I believe in a police system whereby we have taxation to provide services that should be based.
Boone County commissioners are still deciding if they will put a similar freeze in place. Senior citizens would still have to pay property taxes, but it would be a fixed amount based off of how much the taxes were when frozen. A Columbia woman faces several felony charges after a shooting outside a liquor store on Ballinger Lane last month. The charges against Soraya Brown include first-degree assault and unlawful use of a weapon. The shooting happened near an Arena liquor store. When police got there, they found a 17-year-old with a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. Boone is being held without bond at the Boone County Jail.
A for sales man faces charges in connection to the January 6th Capitol riot. Matthew Logan Bill will appear in a bench trial this October. The federal charges were originally dismissed last month since the case wasn't brought to trial fast enough. Courts are required to try defendants within 70 days of filing an indictment. Logan Bill is one of 33 Missouri residents charged in that riot, now according to an NPR database. The Biden administration is extending a national emergency about foreign election interference. President Joe Biden sent a letter to Congress today saying the emergency initially declared under former President Donald Trump will continue. President Biden says there's no evidence of foreign powers changing counts in any U.S. election. Instead, he says some countries are trying to exploit America's political system. Former President Trump held a fundraiser tonight for Rudy Giuliani's legal defense. Prosecutors indicted Trump's former attorney on charges of election interference. Giuliani's attorneys said in a recent court filing he is struggling to pay his legal fees. Donors were asked to give $100,000 each to pay for his defense. A jury found Peter Navarro, Trump's former trade advisor, guilty of contempt of Congress.
That's in connection to Navarro's failure to comply to document demands and testimony about January 6th. Navarro's attorneys made a motion for a mistrial in court, claiming the jury was exposed to protesters outside the courthouse during a break. The judge told the attorneys to file the motion, but would not rule on it today. Navarro spoke outside the courthouse after that verdict.
The Department of Justice itself says you can't do what the legislative branch has done to me, yet they were the ones prosecuting. That's just wrong.
Navarro's sentencing date is scheduled for January 12th, 2024. President Biden is traveling to New Delhi to meet with the world's largest economies at the G20 summit. Leaders will discuss Russia's war in Ukraine, climate change, the economy, and delivering for developing countries. The group represents 75% of international trade and 2/3 of the world's population. The National Security Advisor says this summit will show the world's economies can work together even during challenging times.
Well, as the demolition project moves forward, we take a look back at the history of the Rocheport Bridge.
Plus, skating without the layers. We'll tell you about the unconventional rink coming to mid-Missouri.